This is Three Dog.
How can I help?
This is Sophistry.
A show where we dive into the world of video games and tech, telling you how to spend your money.
Isn't that nice of us?
Here are your gaming hosts, Andy Borkowski and Shaggy Dave.
The show's about to begin.
VGS.
Shall we play a game? Begins now.
Andy Borkowski here for VGS on Talk Radio AM 640, the program where we look at the world of gaming and bring it to you in the Toronto area. We talk about some of the newest games that are coming out, a lot of the art behind these games, why we think these games are important, and have, hopefully, a lot of fun in this final day of January. I'm joined on my left by the indomitable Shaggy Davidson. How are you today, sir?
Good. I thought you were going to say snowman.
I was close. It's January's done.
And there's no snow.
And there's no snow. I can't believe it.
Really?
I can't believe. Are you ready for February?
I hope so.
I never
tomorrow.
liked February. I never liked February.
Groundhog Day, Valentine's Day,
very important.
Family Day here.
Yeah, in Canada.
It's a lot of days.
There are a lot of days.
Is it a short year, or what do they call it?
Is it a leap year?
A leap year, that's it.
It's a short year.
It's a short year. It is.
I don't know. Again, we don't follow calendars here. We follow video games.
Video game calendar.
Video game calendars. That $1 million idea. Video game calendar.
Don't need it.
All right. So this week we are talking about a lot of big games. I think the biggest new release of 2016 will be coming out very soon, and we were very fortunate. We got to talk to Garth DeAngelis. He was the lead producer at Firaxis Games, all about the title XCOM 2. It is a strategy game that is a revitalization of a very, very famous and much beloved classic game, like one of the original real fun strategy games that people played. And it's really a games game. Me and Garth talk a lot about game systems and why it's fun, and the different ways that you can experience game systems to have fun. We're also bringing back David Spargala's favorite feature.
Andy convinces Dave.
No.
I'm out of it. I don't know.
News of the week.
Oh, yeah.
You're so excited. Yeah. It's an award-winning feature.
It is.
I gave you an award for it last week because it was so great.
It's won a Dundee. It's won everything.
So we have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about, different news things that are happening.
News of the week. That's what it is.
It's just
what happened this week?
I think I like our stories. There's a lot of Simpsons references.
That's what I'm all about.
That is the David Spargala watermark, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm pretty excited, because I love it. Now we're finally getting into actual game releases, January after Christmas, a bit of a drought.
Yeah, because there's that big rush towards, okay, we got to get this out before Christmas so people can buy it at Christmas. February, nobody really cares. And then when it hits the spring, then you get the flood starts, right? Yeah,
we'll get a few now, but you're right. There's been almost a complete drought of any AAA titles for like a solid month, at least a full solid month. So it's cool. We're actually going to talk about one of these big, huge gaming games. So very excited about that. And we also are joined this week by our brand new intern, Matt the intern. Round of applause for Matt the intern here. He's here helping out where he can. He's going to share some insights and some stories. He's been hard at work helping us sound as great as we possibly can. And we're going to get right back to that after we have this break. This is Andy Borkowski, VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
Now back to Video Game Sophistry with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here, VGS Talk Radio AM 640. David, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Always great to talk about video games on a Sunday night. People have had a long week.
Especially with you.
You and I together in video games. Well, that's it. People have a long week. They want to unwind. They want to learn what's happening in some of their favorite video games. And we're here to tell them all about it.
Yeah, like this song.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We didn't mention this enough last week. We should have. You can hear it a little bit there. We use a lot of video game audio in this show. A lot of it. And it's, we love it. They're very iconic sounds for us. It's stuff that we've loved. Shaggy Dave, our top-notch producer, has picked out some of the most iconic and also obscure sounds.
And just my favorites.
Just his faves that you can find in the video game world. And he's put it together in a cacophony of beauty.
Interesting.
And we are offering, again, a lot of kudos, a lot of mad respect for anyone that can identify any of these sounds. If you know what you hear on this show, Shaggy Dave, tell them what they should do.
Send us an email, a tweet. If you want to send us an email, it's vgs@640toronto.com. If you want to tweet us, it's VGS_640.
That's right.
And
of course, our website, where all this stuff is.
That's right.
You know, a lot of this stuff, we only have an hour here on terrestrial radio, Talk Radio AM640, and a lot of the content is a lot more than an hour long.
Yeah, so if you miss any of it or you want to hear more, this is what you do. You open up your internet browser, you type in 640toronto.com
Okay, all right.
/VGS.
Yeah.
And then there we are.
And there you are. Our pretty faces. You can listen to all of our shows on iTunes.
Don't really need to see our pretty faces.
Not at
okay.
all, but you can listen to all the content on iTunes. And, of course, we have some extra content that you can't hear on the radio. But that's enough of this right now. You came here for video game news, and you shall have it. Our News of the Week with Shaggy Dave.
This week in gaming.
I've got to do the news!
It's not often in the world of video games that something creeps out of your toilet and leaves you wanting more.
Hey, Michelangelo, how come you're not shouting cowabunga? Well, to be honest, I'm getting kind of bored with it.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the love child of Japanese culture and pizza-eating reptiles, is coming to the world in game form. The over-the-top action-packed game is from the same development team that made Bayonetta fun and revived Transformers from its Michael Bay grave.
What are you protecting? Colostomy bags, bedpans, throat lozenges? Where'd you get that hat from? Nursing school? So you're nurses and foot powder protectors. Fantastic, yes.
Heroes in a half shell, Have you ever looked at that electrical rat Pikachu from Pokemon and thought, he needs something new, maybe a hat? A new 3DS game is coming out in Japan, celebrating 20 years of Pokemon with Detective Pikachu. The insane game puts Pikachu in the world of Sherlock Holmes, gallivanting around town, commanding your human to discover clues, unlock mysteries, and begs the eternal question, why is this a game? If you were looking for a reason to jump back into Star Wars Battlefront, now is the time. EA has outlined the road ahead for the game, with players soon heading back to Jabba's Palace, Cloud City, and eventually the Death Star. This week, though, get ready for new Luke and Han Solo, dressed in Hoth-era clothing and looking pretty scruffy.
Who's scruffy looking?
And often on this program, we try to convince you that video games are art. Well, now we have proof. Enter Ball Kicking Simulator 2016.
Hans Mole Man Productions presents Man Getting Hit by Football.
Creative heights have reached a fever pitch. On Steam Greenlight, the new indie title has been making the rounds, depicting 8-bit characters doing exactly that, kicking people directly in the grapefruits.
But the ball is groin! It works at so many levels! Roll it again.
Andy Borkowski back with you, VGS Ball Kicking Simulator.
Ouch.
It's amazing what people make on that Steam Greenlight. You know, it's a system where people can just kind of develop their own types of ideas, and the community votes on where they should take the story next. And apparently, a lot of people want to see a ball kicking simulator.
It's so simple and stupid, it works.
There you go. Exactly.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Right?
Well, it's, you know, those are some of the great big news stories that happened this week. There are some other kind of smaller ones that we weren't able to discuss in News of the Week. So we thought, hey, let's talk about it here.
Sure.
Seems about right.
Let's do it.
This next story, near and dear to your heart, something I know you've been waiting for such a long time.
Am I a passionate bird?
Oh.
Yes.
The anger might be contagious.
He started it.
Is that what I think it is?
Excuse me, those are fragile, right? Not yours. You are making our guests feel unwelcome, and you're not asking basic questions.
Well, this just got awkward.
Man, those are some angry birds.
Very, very angry.
So that mess of garbage is a trailer for the new Angry Birds motion picture. For those that maybe aren't familiar with the multi-billion-dollar phenomenon, Angry Birds is that game that a lot of people play when they're on the toilet and they want to stay there for a bit. You know, it's a very simple 3D game. You jettison, birds at pigs, right? That's the basic premise.
Yeah.
I assume.
Do you like that game?
Well, it's not a game, you know. It's a game the same way that like ball in a cup is a sport.
I think ball in a cup is more entertaining than this trailer.
So you're not really down for this idea.
Who cares about this movie? Please.
It's obviously for kids, though.
Yeah, like you said, it is the mass pile of garbage or whatever you said it was.
It's not something you are looking forward to.
No, not at all.
Even though it's fun and about Angry Birds that so many people love.
I know it's got a lot of voice actors, like Danny McBride's in it, and
Sudeikis is in it from SNL,
and Peter Dinklage is in it too.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
See,
I was just looking at the trailer because I was listening, but I want that 2 minutes and 42 seconds or whatever it was of my life back. Just awful.
It's a shame because a lot of video games kind of have a dubious reputation when it comes to them being brought into the world of movies. David Spargallo, what do you think? A little trivia here.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most successful video game movie tie-in? So a movie that originally started as a video game.
Okay. I would have to go with Pokemon the third movie. No, that's not my real guess. I would have to say maybe Wreck-It Ralph.
See, that is close up there, but they're not really counting that as, you know, a direct tie-in. Because it's more of like a general. It's a better movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's a better movie. But the number one they have here on Box Office Mojo is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Never saw it.
Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a lot like the game. It's not bad. Terrible score on Rotten Tomato. But you look at the list of the ones that have made the most money: Prince of Persia, Lara Croft, Need for Speed, the Hitman movie.
Need for Speed, the one with
Aaron Paul. Yeah. That like three people saw that they forgot existed. So it's not very popular movies. They're extremely popular video games. You know, Need for Speed especially, it has a lineage of decades.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the first real racing games. And why can't Hollywood get it right? You know, do you think it's just I'm hearkening back to the old Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
When Hollywood looked at Marvel and comic books as kind of toys and cheap playthings and giving the Batsuit nipples, that kind of thing. It wasn't something that you really respect on its own. It's not a medium in which I think a lot of people who are making film really respect it. That's why Danny DeVito is walking around like an idiot.
He was amazing in it, though.
All right. But my whole point is you saw that, and now flip that to how we see Batman now.
Yeah.
It's a much more serious take, even if that's not your cup of tea. It's a very different way that you look at the core material. So my question to you is, we got two very, very big video game movie tie-ins coming in soon.
Yep.
Number one, Assassin's Creed,
yeah,
starring Michael Fassbender, very huge actor. He's been in tons of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And The Last of Us, which is one of the best games I've ever played. It basically is a movie. I'm going to see both either way. Do you think that these games that seem to already have cinematic qualities, that seem to already be quite serious and authentic, will be translated appropriately on the silver screen?
I mean, you can make it really graphic with these movies. They have to be rated R for sure, like what they did with Resident Evil and stuff like that.
I don't think they would be.
You would have to in order for it to be successful, I think, because if you're going to make it like a joke, Assassin's Creed, just running around and you only see like the blade once in the movie, it's going to be like the worst.
Those are brutal games, right?
Yeah,
Those are
exactly.
really
And I think you have to make it like that. You can't like make Assassin's Creed and Last of Us a kid's movie.
I wouldn't say kids, but I think
it can't be a PG rated movie. Maybe 14.
I think they'll hit it for the PG-14 though, or PG-13.
14A.
Yeah. I think that's like the sweet spot of say we can make the most money with that. But you look at the games; these are mature rated games.
They are, yeah.
You know, like these are the source material is meant for audiences 18 years and older. But you know, I would love it. Maybe I can understand if Assassin's Creed was a little bit more PG-13 because it is a little gimmicky. You're flying around, you know, Michael Fassbender dressed like an old Muslim king in the movie. We've seen the trailers for it and not the trailers, excuse me, some of the
photos.
Yeah, the photos of it. He looks ridiculous, but it looks a little more comical. Last of Us is the grittiest game I may have ever played. That will not work unless you see some blood.
Some.
And like intense violence. It's a game that reminds me of movies like Eastern Promises and History of Violence, like very serious, stark kind of representations of conflict. If I see that that's PG-13, I might start crying.
Me too. Who's Joel in it? Do we know?
Nah, do we know?
Thank you, Jimmy.
I don't think it's been announced yet.
I still say get Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, but what about the dude who actually did it? The voice actor that everyone loves,
Troy Baker? Oh, maybe.
He is so pretty. He could do it anytime. He's a great voice actor. He's super pretty. No, you're not buying it? You want Hugh Jackman?
I don't know. I like Hugh Jackman better.
What would be your starring, like the one actor? It would be Hugh Jackman to play Joel?
Hugh Jackman.
I want to think about this a little bit.
And his brother, remember his brother, the blonde guy? You get in Last of Us, his brother.
What?
So you have Hugh Jackman as Joel,
yeah,
and then his brother would be the guy from Lost, Sawyer from Lost.
I don't remember his brother in the game at all.
When you go to, I think it's New Jersey or something, he's like in charge of the gate.
That he does look a lot like Sawyer.
Yeah.
Look at that.
See?
Beating me in video game trivia. This is a dark day, folks.
Yeah.
This is a dark, dark day. But if
we
you
should just end the show.
Well, absolutely not. If you do have your take of what you believe would be the perfect video game that needs to be a movie, you know, if there's something in the cauldron of your brain that you want to pull out and say, oh yeah, I always wanted this to be a movie, please send us your answers. VGS at 640toronto.com. But that's enough of that. Angry Birds, gone.
Garbage.
Now we are dealing with something that's happening right now this weekend, a huge gaming phenomenon.
Put the first piece back together. Put us all back together.
That is, of course, a trailer for The Division, a Ubisoft kind of almost RPG third-person shooter set in the open world of a post-apocalyptic New York. There was a virus that has killed most people, and you are a paramilitary style soldier that is in this world trying to reclaim it. Right now, a beta is going on. It's finishing this evening on most consoles for this huge, multifaceted multiplayer game. It's a beta that I think has almost replaced what the old school demos used to be. You know, when I was growing up, you would almost get a month or so beforehand a full-fledged demo of a game that you could play, enjoy, get a sense of. They don't really do that anymore. Instead, for multiplayer games, they kind of introduce the game, one level of it, a little bit early, expect us to slog through it, and they use that data, they say, to help improve the game. The question isn't whether or not Division was fun, because we'll talk about that next week. We got to really take some time with it and examine it. The question today is, do we want more video games to introduce betas beforehand for the public, or do they kind of stop the experience?
For me, betas, they're okay. They make me want to buy the game. Like I did that with Battlefront, and I thought that was amazing. I thought this game is going to be great, and it turned out it was okay. Other betas, I haven't really played, man.
Well, a lot of them are like closed betas entirely, where it's very difficult to actually get that. They want a smaller amount of people playing so they can use that data more efficiently.
And they don't want it to crash or whatever. I
guess.
Yeah,
they don't have the servers up. They don't have the systems ready. But you mentioned Battlefront. For me, I love that beta so much. Like we only had it for, I think, a couple days, maybe a week.
They extended it for a couple more days.
Yeah, I think it was about a week. I remember playing that every single day. It was so much fun. You're on Hoth. You're seeing the AT-ATs. Beauty. Perfection. The game comes out, it's not much more than the beta. And I think that really ruined the experience for me because I got everything I needed from that game in the first week. And I get it if you use the beta to iterate and improve on the systems and kind of create a better experience. I don't think they did that for Battlefront. Like if you compare how the Hoth missions play on the Battlefront beta to what the final game was, it's exactly the same.
It is exactly the same.
And they were supposed to use all that information to iterate and change it.
Well, that's why you're supposed to get the season's pass.
Well, that's what it is. See, I think it might just be a financial ploy. I think Ubisoft is looking for some free advertising, and that's where they're going for this. I don't think they're trying to use it to actually improve on the game. Now, we'll really say what we think about The Division next week. We've been talking about this for quite a long time. We got to take a break. Next up, though, we're going to talk a little bit about video games and how you can use them to really improve your mental well-being. This is Andy Borkowski, VGS Talk Radio, AM 640.
You're listening to VGS with Andy Borkowski and David Spargallen on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Back with you on VGS Talk Radio AM 640. Andy here, joined by Shaggy Dave. And for this conversation, we have Matt the intern here. So very exciting. He's going to be sharing some stories today. We have a big interview coming up. Garth DeAngelis, he's a lead producer on the game XCOM 2. It's one of the biggest strategy games and really biggest games of the year that's yet to arrive. So we're very excited to talk about that. But before we get into that, we do have to talk about something that I think is pretty important. This week in Canada and through a lot of places throughout the world, there's been a big focus on the stigmatization associated with mental health and mental illnesses associated with that. There's a big effort to try and shed a light on those who suffer from these really kind of immobilizing issues. And a big focus, I think, needs to be put on the role of media and the role of entertainment. We here at VGS, we deal in video games. So I took the time to take some examinations of what is the research here?
Okay.
What do we do? What do scientists believe will help people dealing with these issues? There's some pretty interesting stuff. There's a really exhaustive article in Slate last year where they did a lot of the work for me. So it's very fortunate that I found it. But results showed that when people play video games, 2 regions of the brain are continuously motivated. Usually it's the region that is most associated with motivation and goal orientation. So these 2 kind of competing factors of the brain are working together when you play a game. But unfortunately, a major study found that if you play games for between 20 to 30 hours a week, it can lead to severe depression and other mental illnesses. That could be shocking to a lot of people listening, but if you examine the study a little further, like Slate did, you'll see that those that did play that amount, that level, that 20 to 30 hours, identified that they were playing because they were using video games as a form of escapism. Mm-hmm. Over 81% were using it as a way to get away from their lives. And the latest study that was actually published in the Journal of Pediatrics followed 3,000 students between 7th and 8th grade. And they showed that while, yes, if people play games with that in mind, they were more prone to depression and other mental illness. But if they played games purposefully with goals in mind, games that affect creativity like Minecraft, games where the intention is to solve new problems like Portal, or strengthen relationships like Words with Friends, or in many cases to bolster competitiveness like Call of Duty, those students were 82% more likely to be happier and socialized within their school process. Now, this study is by no way an individual study. It's actually something that seems to be a continued examination of our society. My question to you guys here, has video games ever affected you in a way that you think has helped your mental well-being? Now, we're going to actually introduce to the show Matt the intern. He does so much hard work here. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks
for joining, because you do a lot of hard work, and you have a story that's associated with this.
Yeah,
right?
Well, actually, my friend, he uses League of Legends as a way to cope with his high anxiety. He in high school, he used to smoke a lot of cannabis, and that's what procked his anxiety. Now, the thing is that he uses it as a way of bringing back into like society almost in a way. I mean, he's playing competitively, he's talking to other players, it almost introduces him to the world around him. So now today, from playing League of Legends and, you know, playing that competitive edge, he's able to go out to the bar, hang out with friends, when he used to not be able to do that at all. Mm-hmm. So,
well, yeah, it's weird to think, you know, that the video game, something that's so associated with slovenly couch surfing behavior, could actually help someone that's feeling alone, isolated, and in need of a friend. You know, Dave, are there any games that you play that you kind of use? Because we all play games for different reasons, but I know for me, there's at least a few games that I play when I just want to feel better. You know, I just want to feel a little more stable, let the pain of the day kind of wash off. What are some games that you play?
Yeah, there's a couple, you know, if you have a bad day or whatever. I'll play maybe a game of NHL, or I'll throw on Call of Duty, or even GTA, just, you know, just driving around like that and just listening to the radio station, just doing random things. It helps, man. It's fun, and it takes your mind off things.
It's pretty goal-oriented, right? Like, that's what they're saying. The study found that when there are games where you know what you're doing, and you have a plan and there's rules in place, it can kind of maybe give you a bit of stability if you didn't have that before.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's it kind of ties into that. I love a good strategy game. I love all games. I play them all, unfortunately. And a good like Total War game where you're a military, essentially general, dictating different armies fighting each other. You're thinking about something really specifically. All your attention is focused on that. And it really helps when things are getting too overwhelming. And it's not that you're using it to escape reality and live in a different world like maybe you would with Mass Effect or something else than that. It's more that you're using the rules in place to provide stability when your life doesn't have any. And we're very fortunate to be speaking right after the break with Garth DeAngelis. Like I mentioned at the top, he's the lead producer at one of the best strategy franchises on the planet. It's a game that everyone's looking forward to. I can't wait to play. XCOM 2 coming up next. Remember, if you do have any mental health issues, if you do have any problems that you really need some help with, please, we'd like to help because we love video games. We want to share that with you. Send us a message, VGS at 640toron.com. We'll be back with Garth right after this.
Now back to Video Game Sophistry with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
As we start up 2016 today, it's all about the biggest new release of the year. The classic strategy game XCOM is getting another revival, XCOM 2. To tell us all about it, lead producer Garth DeAngelis from Firaxis Games is here. Thank you for joining the show. How goes it?
It goes very well. Thank you for having me.
How does it feel? We're about a week outside of release. I talked to you about some of the previous games you've made in the XCOM world before. How are you feeling after all this hard work?
I'm feeling it's pretty incredible, actually. I feel very grateful. I feel very lucky to continue working on this franchise. Yeah, I think we spoke about 3 years ago on Enemy Unknown, the first XCOM title that Firaxis worked on. It was sort of this niche genre back then, sort of turn-based tactics and strategy combined, and to have an opportunity to still work on the franchise and make an even bigger sequel is a dream come true for me.
How has this development cycle been in comparison to Enemy Unknown? Because that was really like a full reboot. You're taking this classic game that people love so much and trying to repackage it again for a whole new audience. For XCOM 2, did you find this development cycle was, a little bit easier because you had that new tech to rely on? Or now is it that people expect so much of you that it's even more difficult? How do you feel about it?
It's really funny. I mean, I think when you think about a sequel, in a lot of ways, it's expected that it's going to be easier. And in a lot of ways, it was. I mean, we figured out a lot of the hard work of what does XCOM mean to Firaxis, what is our take on it. All of that was resolved in the Enemy Unknown development cycle, which was very challenging, but in a different way. XCOM 2 was extremely challenging as well. You can't just say, you can say, hey, we're going to make it easy and just regurgitate the exact same systems we made with Enemy Unknown, but just give you a little bit of different art and things like that. But the team at Firaxis doesn't do that. We really dig deep and look at what we want to change to make the game even more compelling. We want to change systems. We want to change features. And we did a lot of that with XCOM 2. So it was a sequel, and the foundation is there if you loved Enemy Unknown.
We're going to get really deep into that. But first off, for some of the listeners that aren't really familiar with the game, maybe they've heard of XCOM beforehand, they're not big PC players. Tell us what XCOM 2 looks like and feels like.
I'm obviously a little biased, but to me, it's one of the perfect games when you think of a pure game, which to me, a video game is having a pretty tough challenge thrown at you and solving it in a fun way. And XCOM sort of does that in spades. It is a story about an alien invasion, which sort of has this foundation in our collective social consciousness of what that means, whether you think about, old pulp sci-fi or if you think about something like Independence Day. And it's your job to fend off sort of the aliens taking over Earth. In Enemy Unknown, it was a classic UFO invasion where they are coming to Earth and they're taking it, and you had to stop that. In XCOM 2, because the game is so challenging, it is about overcoming consequences. It is about loss, whether that's loss through your soldiers dying or through losing countries that have been funding your operation. In XCOM 2, it's your job to take back Earth. The lore that we've created for this is that you lost in Enemy Unknown, which is a little bit counterintuitive, but it's really fun and perfect for us to set up this narrative stage that we say, okay, XCOM was this elite paramilitary organization, and you couldn't do the job in Enemy Unknown because it was so hard. And in XCOM 2, the stack the deck is stacked even against you even more so, and you now need to rebuild that organization plus sort of spark this resistance around the world as well to take back this alien-occupied Earth.
Whenever we talk sequels, you always got to go to the original. I'm asking you now, we talked 3 years ago about the first XCOM, your reboot of it. Looking back, you've made XCOM 2. What didn't work with the initial XCOM that you've changed in XCOM 2?
There was a few things we wanted to do, and again, when I said we wanted to dig deep as a team and really put a lot on our shoulders to try to perfect XCOM 2, we were pretty proud of Enemy Unknown and sort of the reaction from the community meant the world to us. We had a community tell us how much they enjoyed the game, but we definitely got some feedback with respect to things like the strategy layer, which XCOM, if you don't know, is sort of two games squashed into one. You have this tactical layer, which is all about combat. You control these soldiers, this squad on the battlefield, and you're shooting and blasting aliens and using all these different abilities with these classes. But then after those missions, you take back any gear and tech that you've earned from the battlefield, and you bring it back to this base that you have. You give it to your scientists, your engineers, and then you tell them what you want them to do with the gear that you've earned on the battlefield. And then they create new weaponry, new technology for you to get stronger and catch up to the enemy. And it's sort of the synergy between these two games that in my opinion, make it pretty special. To answer your question, though, about Enemy Unknown, we really wanted to make the strategy game even more open-ended. We wanted it to be more replayable. In Enemy Unknown, there was pretty much a go-to strategy that our fans learned and said, this is the best way to play. Doesn't mean it's not fun, but this was the best way to play. And we wanted in XCOM 2 to make that not so black and white. We wanted each game to feel very different. We wanted there to be wrenches thrown into your plans as you went through the strategy layer. And we wanted you to have to adapt and play differently every time you fired up a game of XCOM 2. And the design team did a fantastic job with sort of cracking that nut to make the strategy layer feel even more open and unwieldy.
We'll have more with lead producer Garth DeAngelis on the game XCOM 2 coming out very, very soon. The big release of the year, probably the biggest so far. Next up, he's going to tell us how you can make Justin Bieber in the game and sacrifice him to your pagan gods. VGS coming up right after this.
You're listening to VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here for VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640, speaking with Garth DeAngelis, the lead producer of the biggest game to hit the shelves so far this year, XCOM 2. Before the break, I teased the notion of creating celebrities that you could sacrifice in the game. For those that aren't familiar, this might sound a little strange. Garth, what am I talking about?
This is... in a weird way, this is one of my favorite parts of the game. In XCOM, we have sort of a traditional cinematic epic story that you'll learn, and there are these gorgeous cutscenes that you'll get, almost like you're watching a science fiction movie. But in XCOM's DNA, we want to give the player the ability to tell their own stories. And when they're on the battlefield with their soldiers, you can create them to be whoever you want, whether that is family, friends, or celebrities, as you alluded to. We have an extremely deep character and soldier customization system, so you can make them look like almost whoever you want, genders, nationalities, personalities. You can give them their own animation set if they're sort of laid back and cool, or if they're a little more twitchy and schizophrenic. You can have that reflected in how you want them to behave. And it's one of my favorite parts of the game. You alluded to that you can kill off particular celebrities, and you get, you obviously want to keep your soldiers alive, but that makes the game easier, and that's one of the core gameplay loops. But when you lose them, it is this heart-wrenching feeling because they're gone forever.
I always love in the game that when you do lose any of your soldiers and they're gone forever, especially in the first iteration, it never felt like they were lost for a reason of the game punishing me because, you know, their systems are faulty. It was always a choice that I made. You know, I took that chance to go over the ridge. I took that chance to not cover, and, you know, I paid for it. What else are you doing to, because I love that, because I think for me that creates kind of a second level narrative. With XCOM 2, are you taking that any steps further to make my choices mean that much more in terms of gameplay?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really happy that you recognize that. It's a huge testament to design and creating the system that doesn't make you feel like you've been cheated, that doesn't make you frustrated. It may not mean that you don't reload every now and then.
Of course.
Again, unless you're playing Iron Man, of course. Iron Man is a great way to play. That means all your choices are permanent. But it's pretty cool, and it's built off of a turn-based system, which when you hear turn-based, sometimes that harkens more memories of older strategy games. But the team did a fantastic job of giving you this timeless system that is very, very fun mechanically, but it feels like it's alive. It feels like it's cinematic. For the sequel, we're adding some other tools in there. You know, the permanent death system is alive and intact, just like Enemy Unknown. And, of course, we gave you all these different customization bits and all these goodies. You can create you can create things like biographies and epitaphs for your soldiers as they die or when you recruit them. And then we have this whole character pool system. Before you start a game, you can sort of create these different pools. Again, whether it's something a little more personal to you, like, you know, your college friends, or something that you want to share with the world that would be funny, like this TV show that you love and the characters from there. You can create these character pools before a game, and then they're organically seated in your game in these different spots. They can be recruits. They can be VIPs that become your scientists and engineers, so they're now named, and you're moving them around the base and telling them what jobs you want them to do. You may be rescuing them from these jail cells where the enemy has them captured. So now instead of just, you know, rescuing random digital avatar A, you're now rescuing your Uncle Rico, you know, that you grew up with. He's in this jail cell, and you have to go break him out. And it adds this whole new agency to the game that I think brings it even above and beyond Enemy Unknown.
Oh, that sounds so dynamite. I cannot wait to get my hands on that. I love the game. It sounds amazing, you know, because I was just thinking of that. The people that you move around with, the NPCs, were often kind of nameless. And to add that another layer with the epitaphs, cannot wait. One big thing that I love about this game that you guys are kind of pretty individual is you really, really embrace the notion of modding. You know, a lot of, especially, you know, PC developers, they take a game, it's their baby, they want to lock it out from anyone playing with the toolkits or messing around. In XCOM 2, you guys appreciate the modding community so much that you're actually taking it a step further. Could you speak to that a little bit?
You know, we sort of joke around. We joke, but we were very serious about it as a core pillar when we entered pre-production for XCOM 2, in that if we could sort of redo anything from Enemy Unknown, one of the things that we wanted to take back was our lack of modding support for Enemy Unknown. So it's something we knew we really wanted to do going into XCOM 2. The engineers did a fantastic job of restructuring the code base, so it's easily moddable. You can change things in gameplay source and script to change gameplay completely. You can do partial modifications. You can do total conversions if you have the skill set as an artist to model and texture. You can have our assets that you can modify. And we really want to partner with the community even more. We feel like that can give really fresh life to a product. And XCOM is so rich. The game is so rich with that we feel it can be built in other worlds. So we just wanted to give these tools to our fan base. So we're releasing an entire SDK built off the Unreal Editor that modders can dig into and start making some really cool stuff, we hope.
And for those that are familiar with the game, they know the original game, they really know the name, The Long War. Is there any kind of involvement? Yeah. It's a big mod. People have loved it. And I do know there's a bit of news just released actually this weekend about XCOM 2 and, you know, what you guys are doing with that. It sounds pretty exciting. You know, what's happening?
Yeah, it's actually pretty cutting edge. I'm so proud that, you know, everyone from the publisher to our team has come together and said, we want to do something that's pretty unique to the industry, but touching on modding, one of the examples from Enemy Unknown that was sort of a grand slam was this mod called The Long War, which this small team of independent developers came together and said, they love vanilla XCOM, but they want to figure out how they can make it longer, thus the name. So they sort of ran with that idea, and they basically overhauled all the systems in our game, and they did it on their own. So we said, hey, we want modding to be really big for XCOM 2, so let's meet these guys and ladies and sort of hear about their challenges when they were modding, what they would want from a tool set. And we actually met them. There was a panel also this weekend at PAX South where our lead engineer, Ryan McFall, was with their team for sort of presenting on the collaboration of our mod tools. And the Long War folks are creating their own design for a mod that's going to be released very soon as well that they're running with. So it's a really great way for them to sort of prime the modding community and show what can be done with the tools that we're providing.
What do you hope players will get from this game, the first big release of 2016, your baby? It's XCOM 2.
I think what they're going to get is even more of an open world. And more choices, more strategic choices. XCOM is, at its heart, a strategy game, even though sometimes it feels like a narrative-based game. Sometimes it feels like it has some action. There's so many things going on with it, but at its core, it's a strategy game, and the design team said, we want to give the player more choices. We want to give them more interesting choices. We want them to want to return to this world.
When XCOM Enemy Unknown came out, it was our game of the year way back when. We love these titles. Like Garth was saying, I think it is the best kind of real pure game experience that you can get on the market right now. When is the game available, and where will players be playing it?
So the game is available February 5th worldwide on PC and Mac and Linux. So you can be playing it on your PC on February 5th.
Big thanks again to Garth DeAngelis, lead producer, XCOM 2. You got to pick up the game. Again, thank you all. This is VGS on Talk Radio, AM 640.
This is VGS with Andy and Dave on Talk Radio, AM 640.
Andy here. Thank you again so much for joining the program. We really do appreciate it. We work very hard here on VGS, and it's great to know that our hard work is resulting in some smiles or frowns around the universe. To my left, David Spargala. Anything you have to say about this week's show?
Thank you for listening, and continue listening, and go to our website, man, if you missed anything, because it's all up there.
What's our website again?
VGS.
That's on our website.
Damn, 640toronto.com/VGS. You got me in.
If you want to talk to us on Facebook or Twitter, that's VGS_640. I want to give a huge thank you again to Garth DeAngelis, the lead producer on XCOM 2. He's talking about this stellar game. It is a games game. Can't wait to play it. Matt the intern, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Thank you so much for joining. How was it?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Just pretty good.
Well, no, you know what? Amazing.
There we go. That's what I needed to hear.
He's quitting.
Next week, we are dealing with... today was a game that's very much about games. Next week, we have Firewatch. The creator of that game said it's basically a stellar HBO series. So I cannot wait to talk about it. Again, this is Andy Borkowski on VGS, Talk Radio, AM 640.
Without a doubt, the worst episode ever. Rest assured that